Hello, folks. This is Psychic Underlord from PsychicUnderlord.shop and PsychicUnderlord.etsy.com. Coming at you with another video today. This podcast format is very interesting to me. It allows me to kind of share my point of view as well as provide spiritual knowledge, food for thought, things that will make you go, I wonder about that if that's true. I wonder if I test this philosophy and utilize psychic rituals to be able to transform my existence. Maybe some things might change in my life. This video is entitled Magic is the First Spirituality, and it still works. That is extremely shocking to many people because many people say, oh, I thought that the world, and upon the arrival of the Christ, figure that the world had come out of wickedness. Well, there are many Christ figures. Even Jesus himself indicated that when he left, there would be another Christ after him who would be a man. So you're telling me that Jesus Christ was a prophet of God and was carrying the powers of God to demonstrate the magic just like Moses and all the other people in the Bible who were living these magical, mystical lives and all of the over the top magical experiences indicated in the Bible. You're telling me that Jesus Christ came back, showed the world that he could create all types, all manner of magic, even bring himself back to life. And somehow there would be another Christ after him that would bring the whole world into all truth. What truth did Jesus Christ not bring us into? I submit to you that he was a part of the process of the high God, the creator of everything, in perfecting his plan for the earth. So happy Sunday to you. Magic is the first spirituality, and it still works. Let's have an honest conversation. The word magic makes most religious people very uncomfortable. It conjures images of witches, dark rituals, and everything that they've been taught to avoid. I can't say it's extremely wrong, but there's a process in the refining of everything. Iron, of gold, in the refining of a garden requires pruning, requires growth, the cutting back of things, the budding and the allowing of things. This is an organic process in the development of your spirituality. So religious people, they've built walls around themselves, convinced that magic is something out there practiced by others, dangerous and definitely not a part of their spiritual life. The idea of most religious people is that you want to be right. You definitely don't want to be on the wrong side of spirituality. I believe everyone is doing what they believe best for themselves based upon the information that they've received, based upon how they feel. Feelings are very important. We can't negate feelings. If there were no feelings, we wouldn't be human. We would only operate on a very strict, logical level, and there would be no room for the human experience and the refining of our spirit. Magic is the first spirituality. It predates every organized religion, and it never stopped working. Even when Jesus came, he said, there's going to be another Christ after me. Don't you get it? That this is the eternal process of the refining of the entire planet. What are the elements of our planet? Iron, gold, diamonds, minerals. All of these things have come from the earth and have proven themselves to be earth elements. And for some reason, some magical phenomenon keeps all of these elements tied to one another in an ecosystem we can't possibly fathom or describe across thousands and millions of miles. A phenomenon of an electromagnetic concept that is holding our world and our atomic existence together. This is a process. This is not something you've been able to evade or to avoid your whole life. You foolishly thought that you could somehow pray your way out of this or pray your way out of magic having a presence on this earth. More importantly, whether you believe it or not, magic is actively shaping your life right now. The only question is whether you're going to keep pretending it isn't or whether you're ready to take back control. The uncomfortable truth is that magic is already in the church. That's something that religious people will definitely laugh at. And many will also nod their head in agreement with what I just said. The uncomfortable truth is that the church has magic in it. If you walk into any church on Sunday morning, what do you see? A man in robes speaking words of power over bread and wine, transforming them into something sacred. The concept of transformation spiritually on an element such as bread or wine or juice, congregates consuming these elements to receive spiritual benefit, just as the divine Jesus Christ had done. So we got some kind of time travel thing going on. Hands laid on the sick while expectation of healing. So if the doctor couldn't heal you, why are you laying hands? What is this concept of utilizing the human body to transmit an energy of healing? And actually, according to many people, that it actually works. What is this ritual that they're doing here in the church? Water poured over heads to wash away sins and initiate people into a spiritual community, classes confirming people's agreement and uh, allegiance to the denomination of the church, and the prayers that they recite, the incantations, day after day. This is a magical place, but you call it a church. What if this is not magic? The Bible spoke of mystical men who wielded evil magic, just as the prophet Moses big face-offs of magic in the Bible. When the Egyptian prophets and the sorcerers were producing the same magical outcomes that Moses was producing, and they were battling head to head before the Jews were released from captivity. And this is the process that the Lord was taking him through magic ritual after magic ritual. He will take you through a process to make your spirituality perfect for you. The miracle of turning the rod into a serpent. Who ever heard of taking a serpent, throwing it on the ground, and it becomes a snake? So Adam and Eve were tricked by a snake. So we have this concept of snakes being of something that God has no use of. Well, he just used Moses later on in the Bible to use that very same snake that had been worshiped by the world and showed that he could actually be a creator of snakes. That's what God, the creator, did with Moses, which blows people's mind because they all know this verse, but we're so asleep that when we look at what's going on in the Bible, we don't analyze how deeply, we don't confirm the elements of what we believe and what we know to be true. So the miracle of turning the rod into a serpent was done through the obedience and the tutelage of Moses, just as well as the wicked enemies of God. They actually did the same trick. And you say, well, oh, I've never seen anybody do that today here on, in the future. Why is it, what's happening with the magic? Are there people that can actually do that today here on the earth? It's a possibility. Who knows? Who knows? The Lord may have made it possible for it to occur in 2026, or it may not be possible. And we hear all these things about the reptilians, the reptilian snake, all the race of snakes, supposedly maybe even the same race of people that deceived Adam and Eve, uh, that were pictorially described as snakes. So Moses performed magic. Pharaoh's magicians also performed magic at the same time. So we had a world back in those days where there was one magic. And they showed that even a Hebrew slave, well, he was also royalty. He was actually speaking for the incarcerated Jewish people. Um, but he performed magic just as the magicians of Pharaoh. The Bible doesn't say Moses did something different. It says they both operated in the same power. The difference was the source and authority behind their practice. Could it be that the Lord, the Creator, was creating two different teams, an A team and a B team? And He chose at that time, and as according to what the Bible has transmitted through the quarters of time, that there were two teams, and He actually decided that He would make the world an enmity with what He had chose to prop up His command, and to test and see if Pharaoh would obey the words that came from Moses. This is a process. He was refining the spirit of Moses to be a leader with his flesh here on the earth. So they both had the same power until the arrival of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ became the ultimate authority and the tiebreaker, mastering death, mastering all of the elements of the magic, as well as the power of God, as well as the command of God. Because, see, the Creator told him to go unto the cross, and that the time had come for him to put his body down. And then he raised himself again, and the world didn't end when Jesus left, even though he came right back. So this was not some kind of spooky magic at a distance. This was a real presence from the divine that had come into the earth and had proved itself to be eternal. And then through the promises of the Bible, promising eternal life, promising a kingdom on earth, promising that the people would inherit the earth, promising that the meek would inherit the earth, and that he would chain the enemy for 1,000 years where he could do no harm. We're seeing an eruption of exposure and people being put down from the highest places, the virtual principalities being placed in uh, the lowest condition as you can imagine by some type of unusual interference that has not been able to take this amount of authority over these people ever. We're talking about decades and centuries of what has been created being put down in a night. The church has always practiced magic. It simply renamed it. The sacraments used to be called rituals. The sacraments are what covers the person in magic. The blessings of the church instead of spells. What do you, when you go to church, aren't they reading? They're reading things. They're saying things, they're repeating things. These are spells, but they're called the blessing. Blessing for the church, blessing for the sick, blessing for this, for the sick and shut in, all these kind of things. They're casting spells, laying on of hands instead of energy transfer. Energy transfer, but they call it the laying of the hands. And then they say that those with power, you can feel when they lay their hands that it's much different from someone who doesn't have the power. So it is a real phenomenon in the church that people experience, including the spontaneous miracle, the healings. When people go and have these chronic diseases and go back to the doctors and end up being examined and realize that they had no longer have these things. Communion instead of sacred consumptions. Communion. I hear all the time people saying with witchcraft that something was put into my food that was some type of witchcraft and they ate it and it made them very sick. But in church, you take communion into your body, so it's putting authority of the Spirit and of the church inside of your body to create chemical, electromagnetic, connective reactions within your system. Holy water instead of charged water. So instead of thinking about it on a scientific and saying that all of these things we do to make our water of a higher quality, this is a holy water. So they're using the spiritual modality to transform the energy inside of the water so that the water becomes holy water. The terminology changed, but the technology didn't. There's only one magic and a centralized authority under the Christ figure who comes from God. He chooses who he sets up and who he takes down. So, this is why religious people deny what they already know. Here's where it gets interesting. Most religious people, deep down, know that magic affects them. They're afraid of it. They've experienced it. They felt the shift when someone prays over them. They may come to church and say, haven't had a miracle in a long time, but I did have a miracle 20 years ago, and that's enough to keep me in this church waiting for the next miracle to occur. They've sensed darkness in certain places or around certain people. They build a phraseology, an understanding of how their religion ties into their protection against dark magic. They watch situations change in ways that defy logical explanation completely. They know, but they use mental gymnastics, many of them, to avoid confronting it directly. One thing about life is that mental gymnastics come along with working in the realm of sick and demented individuals. You don't have to have a sign on you to be sick or demented. You could just be a rogue coworker. You could be a boss. You could be a terrible, negative friend. You can be someone who is uh, secretly jealous or harbors negative emotions about you and doesn't know why. People that are perverted mentally because of what they experience every day. And so they bring these perversions into our lives and we experience these things. Then we start to do mental gymnastics because we don't have rituals that actually cover this part of my existence. So you simply endure, but also people don't just endure in life, they also conform in life. They conform into the shape and the fashion of what the world has told them to become. And that is the definition of death. That is the definition of sickness. How do we get out of it? It's psychic rituals that are the solution for you to get out of all of these mental gymnastics. So, what they say to themselves, religious people, they say, well, that was just a coincidence. They try to overlook a lot. When you overlook a lot, they often find that they end up having to confront terrible situations down the line that could have been resolved by facing them directly. But do they have the strength to face it directly? That's well the whole point of the church existing, is that we have an environment where people are able to not only master their spirituality, but to understand the phenomenon of what is the purpose of why I am unhappy, why am I struggling, why am I going through these different things. It's because magic is coming into your life from negative people who don't like you. And that's just all there is to it. People don't need to know your name to not like you. They could just look at you. They may not even like people that are like you. What do witches do? They cast spells, they send curses, they create negative energy, negative rituals to harm people, to cause problems for people. You don't have to be have an engraved invitation to receive negative curses upon you. You don't have to. You could just be the kind of person that they don't like. And that can be just enough for you to endure the suffering that you're dealing with because of magic. So they also say, oh, God works in mysterious ways. So that basically takes the heat off of them from figuring out what this could be. Because if you're a partner with God, you work with God, what would be the harm in you assisting in discovering what he wants to do for you? If he means you no harm, if his thoughts about you are good, then this is something that's worth investigating, because you're becoming a partner with God. I don't believe in that stuff, so it can't affect me. Just because you don't believe that the sun shines in the daytime, it doesn't mean that you're not under the sun. Even if you're inside of a building, you're still under the sun. As a matter of fact, because the way things are set up, you can't live without it. So all these people buying bunkers from a nuclear attack, they're just going to die inside those buildings. There's there's no logical way to survive something like that. This is why we're trying to fix the world, so we get these crazy people out of here and kill them, because they mean no good for anything. They are illogical. Death is their inheritance, and I believe it should come swiftly. As long as I have faith, I'm protected. So it's really nice when people can feel bold about their spirituality, bold enough to say that, uh, you know, their belief brings protection. But does it really? If you have feelings inside of you that things are going wrong, then that's not a true statement. You need to cover the edges. You can't lay in a bed and have a blanket that's 1 foot by 1 foot, a 12-inch blanket, and you're trying to cover your whole body. Your whole body is exposed except for that 1 foot area. That's the way that ritual works. Ritual covers all the areas of your life that you dictate that it covers. And does the prayers of the church, they give you coverage. This is what people receive, and this is why the consistency that they receive the blessings and the prayers of the church, it definitely 100% helps them. And then you add your rituals with that, because it is the first spirituality, and it is the direct war. See, he's not just going to remove all this stuff from your life. He's causing you to confront these things, because he's looking for someone who will fight on his side. You say, oh, well, I've never seen the Lord fight. The whole Bible is a fight. The every part and every verse of the Bible is a battle between good and evil. And there's no way for us to succeed if you just lay down and allow it, and you allow the cancer to get you. You allow the crisis in your marriage to get you without ritual. You allow the problems over your children to persist without ritual. And you're just praying and you're not looking at the curses that the child is receiving from a witch inside that school who hates them every day. You wonder why they're failing. You wonder why they're not succeeding. You wonder why you're sick when you have coworkers who are so disrespectful and nasty. And inside of the atmosphere, you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day living in a cesspool of toxicity. And you didn't have the ritual to be able to address you protectively, placing protection around your physical body energetically. So, mentalism, using mental frameworks to justify inaction against spiritual realities, that's another element of fear. So that's another egoic fear energy that people use so they can claim that they have power when they really don't know for sure. And I'm telling you here that the church does things that are modeled after the original Old Testament, but it also recognizes that it can't be there for every little thing that you do. It's necessary for you to have the rituals to cover you. You can be a Christian and still suffer like someone in the world because they use church like medication instead of a lifestyle. If you don't see that rituals, as well as your religion and your spirituality, are a part of your overall strategy here in the world, then that's just using religion like medication. Something happens, now you want to go to church. Now it's nice, it's good. Of course, they'd love to see you come to church. We're lucky that we actually have a church here in 2026. So the person who takes communion on Sunday but refuses to acknowledge the magical nature of what they're doing is operating in contradiction. So you're receiving spiritual technology in your mouth, into your blood system, into every cell of your body, that has been charged with spiritual incantation over that bread and over that wine, while denying that spiritual technology exists. That's not true. What do you think the people that are putting food in boxes and sending it to supermarkets and you're eating it, do you think that there's no human interaction with that food or with the soda inside of that can? Why do you think people tell you to pray over your food? Because they want you to undo the magic. There's magic all over this stuff. You move into a house and 10 other people have lived there. You don't know the elements of what's in that house. That's why they say go through your house and pray over your house and put holy water all over your house to try to get the magic off of it so you can clear it. And we wonder why bad things happen, because there was no clearance. Random things occur to people. You think that the money is clean? You haven't prayed over anything. You haven't given authority to the Spirit over anything. How are you going to make it? Magic is being used to control your life. While religious people debate whether magic is real or acceptable, others are using it against them with no hesitation. You've got people who are mentally ill, people who look at you and say, I hate people that look like you, that come from where you come from, that make the certain amount of money that you make or work in a certain type of field of work. All of these people, I believe XYZ about them, and I'm going to go and I'm actually going to pay someone, a witch, to put a curse on these people because this is how strongly I believe it. And you can find a person, a wicked person, who will do it. So there's no hesitation. You don't know what these people are going through. These you can people can be millionaires and be completely mad, mentally disturbed on every level. And you say, "Oh, I thought it took so much intelligence for people to succeed." Well, if you're intelligent with the wrong things, you could be intelligent with one thing and be completely clueless in every other area. Rituals are necessary for every person living on earth. Without properly placed rituals, you will live under the authority of witchcraft, which has no integrity for the rest of your life, and it may just kill you. When you see people in a hospital bed and they're just so weak they can barely even move, what happened to them? It's something, there's a death grip in the energy of what is happening there. And many times, those people who are so sick and on death's door, they will cast curses upon everyone. Have you ever talked to a person who works in a hospital, nurses and doctors? And do you know how common it is that people completely curse them? And these are the people that are being paid to help them because of their anger, their rage. They become a kamikaze of toxicity. They become an unsafe place. So this isn't theoretical. It's happening right now. Magic is being used to control your life. And you can be the most religious person in the world, but if you don't have rituals, if you don't have the psychic rituals from Psychic Underlord, you've got a lot of things going on. You can walk right down the street and something can happen. Our rituals allow you to combat the proliferation of witchcraft. When you look around society and you see everyone has the same haircut, everyone's wearing the same pair of jeans, everyone wears the same style of t shirt or jacket or tennis shoes, or they're saying the same things. Something is teaching these people to be crazy. Something is teaching these people that they all inhabit prisons, dark places, dark, toxic places, that they luxuriate and dwell in places of conflict and chaos. Something is teaching these people, and it is the witchcraft that is being placed over their lives physically. Consider the source of spiritual influence in my life. It's not just television, entertainment, films, music. Television is filled with intentional magical symbolism and invocations. People openly discuss their spiritual practices, award shows with ritual performances, and they show you this every year. They show you all the different rituals and all the different thematic, dramatic, multi-million dollar shows that they put together with these ridiculous presentations. If they're paying that kind of money, you better believe they're doing something. They have no reason for you can just put someone on the stage and have a great show. They don't want to do that. They want to go to the ultimate level of how they're creating the great deception to bring you into whatever they're doing. Advertising, the science of persuasion. What causes a person to not want to comb their hair, to not want to brush their teeth, to not want to live or to work or to function normally in society? Something has turned on in them or something has turned off in them. It could be anything. These are magic. Logos, repetitive incantations, repetitive commercials, symbolisms disguised as well meaning people, emotional manipulation. This is you. This is why they so invested in making people want to identify with other people. They want to put everyone in the same box. And it becomes so dangerous because there's a witch involved in the process. You can't have spend millions and millions of dollars and there's no consideration of what it is. You could tell it's something different because that's why it doesn't look normal. It looks weird. And you got this super weird looking thing that they're doing, and nobody questions it. Personal enemies, social systems, power structures that have always used spiritual technology to curse to maintain control, saying to people that you will never be this, you will never be that, you will never have the power, you will never have the opportunity. And then they continuously repeat this level of anxiety and depression, decades and decades, and generation after generation of people being stomped into the ground. Personal enemies, it could be people you know or people that you don't know. It could be people across the country. And they just for some reason have a belief system about you people who go to certain stores. Anyone who goes to that certain store, I want to put a curse on them. There are people who are doing this out of the wickedness in their heart. They don't even do it for money. They're just so invested in hatred and evil. They don't realize that it's all going to backfire on them. And by the time it backfires on them, it still has ended up affecting millions of people. Those billions of people that went through the process of receiving the curse or the hex that they put on you, those people are still affected. Even if the thing backfires and kills them in 3 or 4 months, nobody cares, nobody knows. But that affected millions and millions of people's lives. With witchcraft, there's also spirits and worship deities which provide very real outcomes for the ritual buyer. You have all kinds of Santeria, Paolo, and all the different dimensions of Paolo. You have all type of canons and deities of different pantheons. The Hindus, they got in every type of religion, they have a level of witchcraft in it, an adverse ritual placed on people. They don't denounce these people. They don't know who these people are often. That many times they practice their rituals and their curses in secret because this is how they feel. They feel they're doing the right thing. Because whatever that they know about certain people that come from certain places, they think that their thoughts about you are absolute. They don't feel like they're doing anything wrong. They feel like the mission accomplished. These witches feel like mission accomplished when they curse you in a way that harms you. The mentalism trap, why not believing doesn't protect you. It's just like on the job. You can believe that you can clock in whenever you want to, but at a certain point, if you don't clock in at the right times, they have to confront you. So, not believing in a policy doesn't protect you at all. The most dangerous religion misunderstanding is if I don't believe in magic, it can't affect me. So you think that you're just driving around town as a Christian and somehow you're immune to all the different principalities that you pass under, all the different neighborhoods that you pass through, the highways you ride on. Do you realize that the people who construct these buildings and highways that they also consult with witches and spiritual authorities that assist them in doing what they think is right? And you have no idea. Why do you think people pray before they ride on the road? There was even an African witch online who was telling us about how he was staging accidents and killing people because he was receiving blood sacrifice credits for the satanic cult that he was invested in, and he was causing accidents with witchcraft every day on certain highways. And then he would turn on the news and confirm, and then he would put together a little packet of proof based on day after day what he's been doing because his project His sacrificial assignment of the devil was to kill people on these highways every day, and he would send it to the leader of his satanic cult, and they would give him blood credit. That's like saying, if I don't believe in gravity, I can't fall. You've got to have ritual covering you because that makes you a priority. Taking advice from others who are demonic and blindly following them all the way because the illusion that you can get something from them will eventually lead you to another brick wall of abandonment and loss. The demonic realm doesn't require your belief to operate whatsoever. It didn't require Adam and Eve's belief or disbelief because they had already been told by the Creator Himself to not touch that tree, and that wasn't even enough for them. How much more profound do you need? Could you imagine if here in 2026 that the Creator came through the clouds and spoke to you in a loud voice, so loud it just shook the whole atmosphere, and told you don't touch something, and you did it anyway? Oh, well, what if the Creator wasn't very forceful? He just kind of whispered in their mind or whispered in their ear, so it wasn't really that much of an effect. They still knew who it was. She knew who it was. He knew who it was. He followed behind her and he suffered just the same. So it doesn't need your permission to influence you. It functions according to the spiritual laws that exist, whether you acknowledge them or not. The body knows the truth, but only our lives may be in a place where we're trapped in a demonic atmosphere. So we consider that everything around us is just something that we submit to, something that we are able to participate in. That's not the case. You have to investigate through your prayer to figure out what to do. You cannot dwell in an atmosphere and not have a plan of what to do next. You can't. This is the whole purpose of having the ritual. So you don't have to figure out when is the other shoe going to drop? What am I in? Why is this happening to me? You create the parameters, you take the specific rituals, those rituals apply to your life, and they protect you 24 hours a day without you thinking about it, without you doing anything or taking any type of physical acts in the process. It just works. So, suffering is what the enemy seeks to provide. How long do you want to remain in suffering? If you choose, and some people think that, oh, well, I'll suffer for God. Well, Jesus Christ suffered for all of us. Now he's telling you to come out of it, and he's returned. The Christ has come. Suffering is what the enemy seeks to provide. So and that's also ego. Some people say, oh, I feel it more pious or more holy if I suffer to such a degree that others notice. It makes me look much more better. Like I can kind of feel it. I'm getting more of a jolt out of it. So the enemy doesn't care whether you believe in the enemy. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest deceptions of the enemy is for you to not believe that he exists and that somehow you're just living your life in the world without the control or the authority of the Lord or the necessity of coming under ritual so that he can continuously curse you and that there's no mechanism for you to respond to what he's doing. Every religious community in the world has its own rituals. And through Psychic Underlord, we have the only real ones. The real reason religion discourages fighting magic directly, this is the real reason. Why do most religious institutions discourage their members from engaging with magic directly, even defensively, to protect themselves? The charitable explanation is protection. Untrained spiritual engagement can be dangerous, especially when you have people in the church who are demonic. You don't know the the pedigree of the ritualist that you're utilizing unless you ask, unless they can verify and you actually can confirm in prayer that yes, this is the right direction for me to go. How do you know that unless you pray? If you don't pray, it's hard to get an answer. And if you get somebody who's untrained with rituals and they'll turn around and put something on you, you will be in trouble. So it's better to leave such matters to prayer and faith. So they're trying to save people from going down the road. And then next thing you know, it just becomes another thing you're involved in. Oh, this didn't work. So now we got to do this. Now we got to do that. So now you're deeper and deeper into a karmic process of what they're putting on you to be able to so called defend or protect yourself. But if you're with that same untrained person, they're taking you deeper and deeper in something that's just simply going to backfire. So churches that are demonic can grow because they represent what people are accustomed to and unwilling to purge blockages. If people can use church like entertainment, churches are able to receive more money because it makes people feel good. The clearing of the blockage and the letting go, just like I said in the other video on the angelic aspect of as you move forward, clearing and releasing things that were binding you, that allows that's spiritual strength. That is a higher pedigree. Things cannot touch you when you're a higher rank in the spirit. But since no one can see your rank in the spirit unless they're a serious psychic like me who's able to understand the dimensions of what you're facing and what you're looking to address, it could be dangerous because you could be in a church and someone says, "Oh, yeah, I can do rituals. I know how to do this." And they'll do some kind of Santeria or some kind of African Ifa spiritual thing or something, or some kind of Wiccan witchcraft or some kind of earth magic, the different, all types of things that they could possibly do. And it could, the same blockage could be right there, and then it'll turn around and backfire on you and harm you. An institution benefits when its members remain dependent. So the church, some of them, only some of them, they want the people to remain dependent on them, and they don't want them to think about or to be bothered with the concept that they're still struggling, that they're still broke, that they're still in a situation where they cannot progress in the way that they want to progress. Their family is still caught up in problems. And then they say, well, just keep on coming, keep on praying. So it does solve the issue of people's comfort zone, that people need a place of fellowship to meet others that they can trust, meet others that they can relate to, that they can make decisions to build family and community in these places. But the uncomfortable questions of what they're going through is not something that in a demonic church you necessarily want to hear about. Um, so if people understood spiritual technology, they might start asking uncomfortable questions about how it's being used within the church itself. Like, do you have um, rituals that you can put on me, or do you have other things? Can you do special prayers? You know, those type of things make people uncomfortable because then they're saying, well, what do you really want out of this? How far do you want to go with this? And then it becomes a binding aspect that could blow up in the church, uh, that the pastor or the deacon or the prophet or someone is trying to do special prayers, uh, different things, and the confusion of what that could cause is just not worth the trouble, especially when you have a functioning, normal business, whether it's an entertainment type of church or whether it's a spiritual teaching type of church, or an active, um, an active, sorry, my voice is getting dry, an active community of people looking to clear blockages, looking to overcome strongholds, deliverance ministries, laying of hands, aggressive to be able to go in. And many people prefer that type of ministry. So they'll go to those types of churches, which is awesome. So the inner tradition, there's many religious, if the pastor is not clearing and he's kind of holding on to his blockages, you'll notice there's a lot of mess in the church, but it doesn't mean the church will be empty because people are very attracted to messy. I mean, look at social media. Look at what is entertaining to people, including myself. When you want to just sit back and just hear something controversial or some conspiracies or things that'll make you just laugh or you just wonder what's going on, gossip with all these other people, how do you get out of that? It's very difficult. It's a challenge that many people have. Many religious leaders carry unclear blockages themselves. So they can't teach what they don't know. Now they could preach. So, and that will make you feel and make you understand that these are the words of the Bible, but they may not have the power to live those words or to walk in those words or the desire to. There's a church within every church that is unseen and unspoken. It's the church that comes from the angelic side, which leads to full transformation and obedience to the leading of the spirit realm through the clearing of the blockages and the clearing of the deceptions and the lies that you're living in your life. That presence is within every church. It may just be a few people in there, but they know who they are and they know what they do to assist the church in the process. The inner tradition has always understood magic. The mystics, the saints, the true practitioners of spiritual power, they never denied the reality of magical operation. They simply operated under proper authority. The laying of hands isn't a magical aspect. And if you have a person who knows how to lay hands, they may know how to do spiritual surgery on you. They may know how to affect your spirit in a way where it will release strongholds off of your body. The Christ authority, where magic becomes safe. How do you get to a point where I don't have to worry about the magic and what's in it? Well, firstly, you can get the rituals through me, through psychicunderlord.shop or through psychicunderlord.etsy.com. The issue with magic was never the technology, it was the authority and who it is. And we're, for someone to really come out with it, you've got to come out with who you are. And that is something that a lot of people are not willing to do. They're willing to put up a beautiful picture of something that you like to see, something that, oh, personally, look, you know, this person, my ritualist or my psychic, they look very mystical and very beautiful in a certain kind of way. Oh, I look at this person, I don't trust um, this one because they're not as professional as the other ones in their marketing. And those things, believe me, those things come up all the time in every type of business because people are oftentimes not scrutinizing based on the truth of what the product is, but the element of what they feel and what they've experienced in the past, which may be a lie. So, the authority, without divine authority, any of unofficial magic is disapproved and will cause backfire on you. Any rituals that are conducted against the power of God will backfire and proved to create a very difficult scenario full of confusion. We see this all the time. People want to make their own way, unauthorized magic, magic conducted outside of divine authority. You can't just pick up a book and say that now I have the authority to curse people and for it not to come back to you. I didn't say the people who cursed you won't also be cursed. But the issue is that you will still be cursed by them. So how do you clean yourself up? So this is why we have the church in the first place. We have an opportunity for people to have a chance to get themselves right and to gain the sacraments, to gain the blessings. It may be enough to knock off the difficulty that you're experiencing on the job, things that you've had, unclean soul ties, having sex with multiple different people, secret things that are going on in your life. This is a immediate action, instant action opportunity. So it may produce short-term results, but eventually, many of the things that people do through the church will help them to create their philosophy and to guide them in life so their life does become easier. The rituals make it even easier because you can actually select the direction that you want your life to go in. And that's exactly where the rituals will take you. So the Bible warns against sorcery, not because spiritual technology doesn't work, but because unsanctioned spiritual technology works in dangerous ways. Even if there are thousands of spellcasters, I'm the only one authorized to bring restoration in life versus suffering and death. It is what it is. I have to live like this. I have to be okay with living like this. I had to take a little drink. The Christ established a new order of authority. Under this authority, magic becomes safe. The same technology that produces harm when misused produces healing when properly sanctioned. And that's by permission, that's by obedience. You pick up a book from the library, a witchcraft book, these people don't have permission to do that. They don't. And then they get two, three, four, five, six books. Next thing you know, they're selling spell casting. That's dangerous. Doing all kinds of things with candles and fire and all this kind of stuff. It should really show you something how they're all doing it the same way. That should really reveal something to you that they're all getting their information from the same source. And I can sit here right on this broadcast and tell you that it's a lie. The rituals are psychic underlord of the ascension energy and will not cause any risk of negative consequence. We've removed the risk involved in you participating with the psychic ritual process based upon my personal designation within my spiritual path. This is the missing piece that religious mentalism obscures. You can fight magic with magic if your magic operates under proper authority and you're designated to do it. This is why you can't afford to stay passive. Every day you refuse to engage spiritually is a day that others are engaging on your behalf against your interests. Why do you think all these people on social media line up and they're all saying the same thing? Let's all say the same thing. Let's all say that we believe in XYZ or that we conduct or operate in a certain way. They're creating boxes to put people in, and it could be against your will. But people have no choice but to believe what they've mass promoted to millions and millions of people. And next thing you know, instead of a person calling you by your name, they're calling you an animal. They're calling you an imbecile. They're calling you low IQ. They're calling you ridiculous. They're calling you uh, totally confused, and you're not confused. But these are the boxes that are created with rituals and through magic that has been unsanctioned, and also it's for your bad. Toward the most horrible outcome in your life. That's exactly why they're doing this magic. So without rituals, you will take any path that is set before you without any control. That's why you can sit here and see that there have been things that have been created that have been destroyed suddenly, and no one knows how in the world they ended up being destroyed. How did it happen? That wasn't supposed to happen. These things are supposed to last forever, right? Something created a pathway in magical terms, and the magic sent that thing right into a brick wall. You think you're making free choices and nothing can touch you because you can't see it. You think your life circumstances are random or self-created. Oh, I'm I just was drinking a little bit and I just crashed or whatever. My insurance is going to go up. No, what made you drink? What made you go to that place? What made this happen? If you backtrack, there was tons of possibilities for you to do completely different things. How did it happen? Your free will was hijacked by spells and curses and magic. And you think that somehow it's just naturally, it was bound to happen. That's not the case. Spiritual forces are shaping outcomes that you can't see. All free will is a result of what man has told or showed you. So you were actually presented with free will through another man. Instead of you obeying and believing, you were shown examples of people who did whatever that they wanted. And this has created so much suffering in your life that is unbelievable. So, perseverance without Christ is simply repeating the Garden of Eden curse upon your life, that you want to do whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, and you receive the consequences of it, and you'll move on from beauty into a place of a dry place, a deserted place. The destiny control matrix, karma, bloodline patterns, ancestral contracts. These are the people that we meet. These are the relationships we have, the things we believe, what we've been born into, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, lucky or unlucky. All of these things have created what we're living. So these things continue running the program, whether you acknowledge it or not. You can say, oh, I'm not this, I'm that, but your bloodline is still the same. But the karma from your ancestors or from what you've done physically in your life is still the same. Ancestral contracts, people that you promised that you would meet them again, people that have had horrible situations, incarnation, reincarnation. It goes deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. We're just dealing with the magic that people say is not real. When we wear ritual, we're walking in the spirit realm on earth and strategically taking authority over the princes and principalities of this world. They cannot stop the rituals from working. This is the power religious people have been taught to fear instead of wield. The same power that's being used against them is available for their protection and advancement. They've just been convinced to leave it holstered while their enemies fire it like a gun furiously. They fear nothing. They don't even fear the harm of what they can do to themselves because it's ignorance. It's not power. It's an ignorant person who's finally got the gun And this is why you need rituals to protect you. Breaking the mentalism, accepting what you already know. It's time to stop pretending you know magic is real. You've always known. You felt it in church when the atmosphere shifted. You sensed it when something was wrong with a person or in a place. You've experienced answers to prayer that defied natural explanation. Listening to the voice within, such as using the water test or the self serve device to gain clarity, is the way forward in breaking blockages of shame, guilt, and delusion. The shame, guilt, and delusion aren't coming from your recognition of magic, they're coming from the denial of what you recognize. And that's what's making you depressed. That's what's making you uncomfortable because you're still trying to pretend like it's not happening. The cognitive dissonance of experiencing spiritual reality while insisting it doesn't exist, that's what creates internal conflict because the body does know. It knows what's happening. And then when you deny it, the body's saying, something's wrong, something's wrong. And eventually you do that every day. You deny so much every day. You turn around. How do you think these people get sick with all these diseases? Because the body is being denied oxygen, it's being denied the truth of life, of living. The body cannot exhale because it's so full of these lies that you have fed to yourself. Yes, engaging magic does involve learning. Yes, there may be mistakes, but those mistakes teach discernment. They show you the difference between demonic and angelic influence. They prepare you for mastery. And when I'm working with people, I always encourage people to put yourself first. The things that, see, these rituals are going to create a pathway, a timeline directly to what you want. So I want you to focus on achieving as a vehicle of escaping what you're looking to get away from. Because you have to have a doorway, but you also have to have something on the other side of the door. If there's something on the other side of the door, now the doorway is worth opening because you can proceed through that doorway to the other environment. And that's the type of rituals you're looking for: prosperity, things that can help you to um, get to your next station in life. And only you know what that station could be. Staying passive doesn't protect you, it just guarantees you'll remain affected by forces you refuse to understand. So, the original spirituality, magic is the first spirituality because it deals directly with spiritual forces. Directly. Before there were churches, temples, and sacred texts, there were people engaging with the invisible realm through ritual action. That's what makes us human. The fact that we have a spirit, a soul, we have an awareness. And Jesus was the confirmation that there is a great beyond. And through that great beyond, he was able to create physical things in this reality because of what he'd been given through the Spirit. So there were people engaging with this invisible realm before Jesus. That's why Jesus had a temple to go to when he was a child. He was born into a religious atmosphere. The simplicity of the psychic ritual ordering process with Psychic Underlord allows you to choose specific aspects of your life that you want to address by utilizing the same system that Jesus Christ believed in. He ascended to his Father in power. And then he said, there's going to be another Christ. He's coming. But I'm going to give you the Holy Spirit. When I leave, my body is going to leave, but I'm going to leave you another spirit who will work on my behalf here on the planet. Jesus didn't reject magic, he mastered it. He commanded spirits come out of them. He commanded it, transformed substances, manipulated physical reality through spiritual authority. He transmitted his power to his followers. They were doing miracles. Remember when the disciples were performing miracles on everybody? That was given to them when he after he ascended. That's how the church was able to expand. So who continued practice? But before Jesus Christ, have you ever heard of John the Baptist? John the Baptist baptized Jesus Christ. So Jesus was receiving a sacrament of something that came way before he was even born. So what does that mean? That means that magic is the first spirituality. You manifest a new reality around you by addressing the spiritual realm within. So the system never stopped working. Jesus Christ never said, well, all baptism is unnecessary. All of the things of, he introduced the concept of, and the Last Supper, of taking in the food and the spiritual information that came from him in the Last Supper. And then we continue that tradition through the communion ritual that we have in the church. He never discontinued that. He never said stop taking communion or that this is be the only time. That's a part of our church. That's a part of the ritual community. So the system never stopped working. It was suppressed, obscured, renamed. It continued operating for those who understood it. Now it's available to you. So you can continue mentalism. You can keep telling yourself that magic isn't real. Magic isn't affecting you because you love God, you love Jesus, and that's witchcraft. It isn't something you need to address, but you will be bound by magic. You will be bound by what you continue to ignore. You can keep using church like medication here and there instead of realizing that it is the direct route for you to receive consistent sacrament and blessing. A weekly dose that treats symptoms without curing disease, yet it allows you the time that you need to understand your spirituality and to grow toward receiving what you need to receive to grow. When it comes to experiencing problems in life, what you should do is investigate the process and see which rituals apply to your situation. The rituals are permissible for healing, repair, redirection, creation, and targeted manifestation. Every area of life where you're stuck, blocked, or under attack can be addressed through proper ritual work. Not as a rejection of your faith, but as a fulfillment of your faith, no matter what type of religion that you subscribe to. Not as a departure from Christ, but as an embrace of the full power Christ made available. The power that he was born into, that has not been forgotten. The first spirituality, which is magic. Your rituals give you a path that's already laid. Once clearing occurs, you simply jump onto the active ritual timeline and your life continues in that direction. The path exists, the technology works, the authority is established. The only question is whether you will pursue it and finally start using it. Please visit us at psychicunderlord.shop or visit us on our Etsy shop, which is psychicunderlord.etsy.com. Talk to you soon.